a comment myself in the thing saying, there's times there was a time when Neves had the ball and the ball came to him and he moved forward and you could see him look, and he was looking around, waiting for someone to do so, and they just stood there, and you're like, well, and the move breaks down, and you're kind of like, well, and then on top of that, you've got Moutinho, who seemed to like slowing the ball down quite a lot, which slowed the play down as well. And that was the problem. You've got a combination of no movement and slowing the play down. Is not a good mix.
No, and especially when it's in our final third or the middle third, because then if you're a forward player and I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to give players a chance to move. But as you've said before, they're not really coached in that middle third, especially to look for that kind of movement. And they tend to. There's lots of times, and it was picked up in commentary where they were just static. There's no movement, no. And the thing is about playing that kind of game, and you've seen it at every level, is you have to make 1,000 runs which never come off until people learn that you're going to make those 1,000 runs.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think it does come down to coaching ultimately. That, which is, it's very disappointing, really. For me, that's. It kind of did those younger players, especially Vitinha, Gibbs White, Fabio. It kind of makes them look bad because they're relying on some creative passing from Neves, Vitinho, Ed-Nouri and Hoover. I thought Ed-Nouri had a fantastic game, to be honest. I think
I'll be honest, to be fair to Neves and even Moutinho, I do think, I know less extent Moutinho because he did seem to slow it down when there were options on, but those three in front of them also need to move. Everyone needs to be moving around and continue. There shouldn't be when we're in possession, people really standing still, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They should always be looking to move into space.
Yeah, as I always say, like to my daughter, if you're standing still, you're not playing the game. There's no point on a football pitch that you should be standing still. You might be moving leg to leg, trying to convince somebody you're going to go one way or the other, or reacting to somebody else doing that. But you should never be standing still. It's just not that kind of game.
Standing still, flat-footed as well. You see, that's the thing. So you can't. It's not like they're standing there poised like a coiled spring, ready to run into a. It's like standing back on their heels, just watching, and you're like, well, that's not going to help because you'll either get caught. You'll get, and then that's why when they receive the ball, they sometimes when they're in that mode, they look surprised to receive the ball, and you're like, well, you're on the pitch.
You're on the pitch here to take the ball. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But I think obviously, the ball through. Then when Dunk got sent off, which completely changed the game because it took a lot of their corner and set piece threat out, losing Dunk because he was winning pretty much every battle in the air, and that gave us a chance. And then you double that with bringing on Traore, who came on and looked absolutely lovely.
It was a stand.
And you could tell the difference, and you can see the difference. So all those people who say we look better with Traore in the team, that is a perfect example again as to why we don't look better without Traore in the team. And no, we shouldn't sell him. There's people clamouring to sell him. I cannot fathom out why they want to sell him, but they do. I don't know.
There's an element, I think, that comes down to an element that doesn't there, surely, that it's like, and the same could be said of Neves. If you put Neves or Traore in a team which plays to his strengths, then you'll get a different player. But if you're not going to play to his strengths all the time, there's an argument that if the leopard can't change its spots, then put it in an environment where he's got camouflage instead of being out on somewhere where you can see him sticking out like a sore thumb. And I think Traore is a classic example of that. They double up on him all the time. Have you ever seen them not double up on Traore?
Exactly.
Now, if there's 11 against 11, that means there's got to be space elsewhere on the pitch. But because
that's the thing that winds me up so much is you've got a player who continually grabs at least two players, and we're not exploiting the space. Then
no, exactly.
That's not Traore's fault.
No. the fact you can guarantee he'll beat his man and either get a corner or get a cross in. I mean, there's going to be the odd tackle, and he'd be Messi if that wasn't the case. It tells you that in a team which are exploiting those strengths, you're gonna be extremely dangerous. Especially when we've got someone like Pedro on the other side, who also requires two players. Well, you know, all you need to be able to do then is master moving the ball quickly from side to side, and maybe exploiting that area just in front of the D, because then you've got a nightmare to defend against. Where do you put your players?
Exactly. I mean, any player who can dribble the ball at speed at your defence and has the close control that Troyer and Neto, and to be honest, Podence as well. If you play,
well, Fabio can as well.
Absolutely, they're all very good on the ball, dribbling the ball. It makes life really difficult. But the problem is, if they go forward with the ball, they need someone to then aim at, and and that's the wave in behind. There's never we've said it so many times. We don't move. Well, to be fair, we were in the first 15 minutes where we were all moving up as a team and we were all coming back as a team. It was great. And then obviously when Dunk, I mean, it was a great ball through from Coutinho to Silva, and he got away from Dunk, and Dunk made, well, you could see Dunk realised what he'd done as soon as he put his hand on his shirt. It was like, oh no.
Which makes it look worse because he then pulls him back more. It was quite, because in fairness to Dunk, it's probably one of those where he's just hoping to get a little like pull, but he's realised that Fabio's probably reacted to the pull more than he wanted, and then it looks a lot worse than it is, and he's probably thinking, I've been, you see it a lot, a little tug just to slow them down, but Fabio being probably, well, I'm not going to say, but he absolutely fed on that, didn't he? And
absolutely, they're going to. They really are going to. And the thing is, as well, I mean, you watch it, you can see his shirt being pulled right out behind him. He did it he just instantly. They grab onto shirts all the time, but I think Silva just got an extra foot, an extra step further than he was expecting, and then that instinctive grab, because he lets go. That's the thing. He lets go and does that, and you're like, oh that was it. He signed his own death warrant there. So,
but in fairness, by the rules, he has to go. It's
absolutely,
not negotiable.
He
and
didn't play.
If you don't make the pull in the first place, that never happens.
Yeah.
If you don't, and we see it all the time where it's not given. It wasn't enough for a foul. Well, call it a foul every time. It's out of the game. It's out of the game.
Yeah, wasn't enough for a foul is just such a silly statement. It's either a foul or it isn't.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
there isn't degrees of kicking someone or pulling someone. It's just
you can be a little bit pregnant, can't you? So,
but that's it. But he was through, and to be honest, Silva through there, I think, scores anyway.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't have to see the result in a way, because I think for Fabio, in a way, and I want him to get goals, but I think that was a good result for Fabio to win that. He also got the assist for Traore, which is fantastic as well. What I wouldn't have liked to have seen at this stage of his career, him missing that if he goes one-on-one. And I can say that with 100% hindsight. But I just, every kind of week, even when he has a bad game, he's learning all the time. He's developing. I thought physically today, he was really getting in Brighton's bigger players' faces and making life hard for them. It didn't always come off, but he was doing exactly what he does. He's not afraid to put himself about. He'll run. He looks for movement a lot of the time, which other players don't. He's got a good. His 1-2 Traore, I just thought, when I saw that ball going, I thought, that's waste. Oh my God, he scored. How was that happening? Every time, I think, people go, he's got a bulk up. The guy's 18, let him grow. But more importantly, let him develop as a footballer, because that is going phenomenally. Him developing as a footballer is just, can you imagine if we ever did get to play two up front, him and Raul as he was, God, I hope he comes back like that. Oh my God, him and Raul together, two hyper-intelligent players. it'd just be a dream world. And you don't know how tall Fabio's going to be. I mean, he's about 6'1", I think, six. He could be 6'2", 6'3", which would make him more dangerous in the air. And he's not afraid to kind of get involved even now.
No, he's not frightened. No, he's definitely not frightened. He's not a player who gets hacked down and then you don't see for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
He tends to grow. He's a bit like Jota in that sense, in his mentality. Yeah. He wants to. You can see his face
bulking out. Everything's positive on the Fabio front. But to be brutally honest, and this is what really grinds me to pieces, you can see it from day one. You can see the potential. But because it's day one, and there was a bit of that with Morgan Gibbs-White today, and there was a lot of that with Otasowie, where no experience on the pitch at this level, and they get slated for it. Well, how are they going to get experience if you don't give them game time? You know, sometimes, and now is the perfect last 3 games to give those guys game time. You're going to have to accept mistakes, but you're looking for them to learn. You're looking for them to, you don't, let's say it finished 1-1. Gibbs-White would be, and he will be absolutely castigated because there's an agenda against him. But that's part of growing. You make a mistake, you've got to then put that behind you and take the second chance. That's growing as a footballer. And I can't stand this attitude of writing people off for one mistake. I can't describe how much it annoys me. I mean, can you imagine at work? You make one mistake and say, right, you're fired. Go on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I wish the people had this agenda and do that. I wish that would happen in their careers. One mistake, okay, you're fired. Go on, find another job. Had enough of you. Now, it's different to saying, okay, that was a mistake. You need to do better what you did wrong. That's called mentoring. Yeah. But this agenda constantly of not good enough because they made one mistake. One player who we can probably say isn't good enough, but he's a very good footballer, but he's not working for us, is Jose. Not because he's a bad footballer. He just isn't at the level we really need, or he doesn't fit what we do. That doesn't make him a bad footballer. It just means clearly Fabio's ahead of him. Movement.
I mean, as I said, as you know, I don't think Gibbs-White's ready personally. No. But you're right. He does need games to prove that. He's what? He's still only 21, nearly 22, so it's far too early. This was his best performance I've seen him play personally. Yeah. I don't think, as I said, I don't genuinely. I fully admit I'm not a big fan. But the thing was, he missed a proper sitter, really, and I only mean in what I mean by that as well. Not that he didn't score, because there was 2 guys in the goal who could have blocked that. If that had been on target, I wouldn't have a problem if one of those players then blocked it, because you're not going to. There's still players in the goal. It's not an open goal when there's 2 players there. But skying it like that annoys me. Because that does annoy me. But he then gets blocked, but still has the presence of mind and coolness to finish the second chance. So he gains points from me for that. So that shows that he's got something. He's not got something. He must have something. I'm not sure if he's going to be at this level. Again, I can really, in today's performance, then yes, he looks okay. But for me, only okay. But then, I'll go back to the point. He's only 21, so he's not going to be. He might not be ready. You compare it to the last game. I thought, and I'm going to, because in the last game I said, oh yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought Vitinha showed more than blah blah blah. In this game, Vitinha, for me, apart from the ball through, was it the ball through for Silva?
Yeah, it was Vitinha.
It was. I thought apart from that, and the first 15 minutes, Vitinha disappeared out the game completely when we weren't on top. Now, and didn't really impose himself. But that, again, as we said, is didn't help from the rest of the team all sitting deep. So there was no one really for you to actually pass to. But that's the point. They're young players, and they're going to have games like that, and they're going to have games where they shine. And then the occasional one comes along who just plays all the time well, but that's a proper rarity. I was going to say, when you say about the physicality of Silva, and the other player I was going to mention in that, I thought Aït-Nouri showed that he's coming on, and that you see that undermines my other comment I just made. But it shows that if you give them a run of games, they're going to play better. They're going to start to get into it and play better. I mean, they're going to still have off games, that's fair enough. Even the
I
best
think
players
you
are
have to bear in
half
mind. Sorry, Bod. I think you have to bear in mind the position. If you're out wide, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you're out wide, you've got one. You're looking in all the time. And if you've got pace as well, you're halfway there. If you're a central player and you don't have a huge amount of pace, you are essentially a technical player. So I think for players like Vitinha and Gibbs-White, they will take longer to reach their potential because their game is much more technical and it's much more. It relies much more on vision, understanding, and I don't know if Gibbs-White is Premier League. I think. Well, I'm pretty certain he'll play in the Premier League. Certainly in 3 or 4 years' time.
Yeah.
The question is he ready for us now? Probably not. But I tell you what, I really believe a good season in the Championship and could make him. He goes to an aspiring team. He runs the show. He's got the ability at that level. I would have thought toughens up, stays free of injuries, which is always a concern for any young player, obviously. And I'd like to think we'd still have an interest in him, whether that's sell on, whether that's new 3-year contract. I'd like to, but give the guy a chance.
Yeah, a good
at the
season
appropriate
in the
level.
Championship. He comes back with confidence as well, then, and that's key. Because if he goes on, you put him on loan for a season, like you say, he runs a show in a team in the Championship or something like, or not necessarily Championship. Let's say Germany, somewhere like that, somewhere with it's almost the same level, but not quite the same level. So it gives him the chance. And then, but the biggest thing he can come back with if he runs the show is confidence to then come into the team to step up. He can come into the team not going, I don't know if I've got, I haven't turned my place.
He's also got games in his legs. He's got games in his legs. He's used to the knocks. So, and the other thing is, I would even if it is nominally a step down, for a technical player like him, he needs experience, and whoever's advising him should be saying, we need to get you game time. Let's say it's Grasshoppers in the Swiss league, for example, and so long as he goes there and has a good season, it means he makes it. How many players come from a foreign leagues over here and to the Prem? It's not. It doesn't mean that you're stepping down. You're taking a step back to make the leap forward. And I really feel.
I think Grasshoppers might be a bit too low.
I'm just saying. I'm using it as an example. Yeah, I'm using it as an example. Right. I mean, potentially, if he has 2 seasons, he could have European football there. So you can look at it both ways. You never know. Super League 2 might be play Real Madrid and Barcelona every week. But my point stands that you get on these young players' backs, and it says more about you as a person than your comments do about those players. Like Fabio had it. I mean, it was embarrassing. And then what we do then, of course, is we build up Jose to be something. In fairness, I think he's done well because he took the pressure off Fabio, and he also held the line, and we should be grateful for that. A bit like Ndai. We've never really satisfactorily replaced Alfred Ndai, who I always will be grateful for what he did in the Championship. And sometimes you need a player, even for a few games, just to see you through, just to be that link between where we are and where we want to be. And we shouldn't say Jose's crap, because he isn't. He's clearly a good player. He's just not in that Premier League. Certainly not Wolves. Let's face it, Wolves.
Yeah, he also, and I think on top of that, if he was playing in a side that wanted you to be a striker who sat in the middle, never really went out to the penalty area, he's ideal for that. But we don't play like that.
Yeah, doesn't make a bad player.
So he looks particularly bad then. And then and the thing is, if you're expecting cross after cross after cross coming to you to finish, but you get 1, 2, maybe 3 at best reasonable chances in a game, because that's essentially what you'll get at Wolves. You won't get chance after chance after chance. Like if you want chance after chance, you've got to go and make it. It's not going to come to you. So it's not going to be that sort of wingers chucking balls across every time, and you're there just to finish the move off.
So, I mean, Ed Nori we were mentioning before. I completely agree with you. I just think he is I'd say he's proof of give game time and you get results, or if you don't, they're not going to make it. I think Huvier is in that camp where he's not had enough game time. Positioning is a bit unsure, but crosses, some of them were poor. But again, you've got to give him a bit more game time. I think there's definitely a player in there. He's got some really good attributes. I do think it demonstrates how good Semedo is, though. I'm keeping getting but again, it doesn't make Huvier a bad player. It just means he needs game time. And in his position,
I still think he's a centre half. Personally, I just think he'd be.
He could be. He needs.
Me. Yeah.
I don't
think he wants to play there, though, does he?
No,
I think he'd be a fantastic. I think he'd be a fantastic mobile centre half.
Yeah, well, that's what I desperately want. I thought Kilman had a good game on centre halves. He once or twice maybe he panicked a bit, but in general, I think he's shown. Again, there's definitely a player there, isn't there? Oh, I'm very impressed with him. I just wish we had that. It doesn't matter who it is. We just had pace and mobility and aerial prowess in our two centre halves. That if you're playing two, they have to have that.
Yeah. There's no one to cover otherwise, is there? You haven't got the players there to cover otherwise.
No, and I think if you've got like Cody and Neves are too similar when we're in that kind of passing the ball back. If you had a more mobile, pacey centre half, and you've said it could be Cody or Neves as the furthest back type sweeper, pinging the ball around. Doesn't really matter who, because your other centre half will get back and cover you. But at the moment, they're a bit too similar. And it's not that I think either one of those are bad players. It's just that a team should be greater than the sum of its parts. And if you've got, and there's a classic shot on the BBC where just before the corner, they zoomed out to a camera on the halfway line. So you saw a team of giants and a team of midgets. and that's what it's about. You've got to have balance in the team. You've got to have balance, or your goalkeeper has to be so aggressive that basically once he's picked up the flight of the ball, anywhere between the goal line and 12 yards out, it's his. And he doesn't want big players there because it's his ball. He's going to go through you to get it, which is the point the BBC made, that you push your taller players to man mark the taller players.
I find that very, very odd that. Okay, your system is, and you train your system to do zonal marking. I understand that you've done that all week, but when it clearly was not working in the sense, and it was such a mismatch that all the most dangerous people coming in were getting free reign on pretty much everyone, because they're going up against people whose strengths are not in the air. I mean, was it Moutinho against bloody that guy, the Brighton guy who was 6'7"?
Yeah. Ben White, yeah.
No, not Ben White. The other guy, what's his name? The wing back, their wing back, the one who's enormous.
Burns.
Troy Rose. Burns. Yeah, Moutinho was marking him. Now, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm not fully in the camp that the taller you are, the better you are in the air, because there's a sweet spot of height for jumping for a ball, because if you're too tall, then it's harder to get your mass off the ground. This is a load of science that I read about once anyway.
Yeah.
So there is a sweet spot. However, if you're at least a foot shorter than the person you're going up against, you can have a massive spring and jump up. You've got to jump a foot just to get on their level. And that's quite a lot. And now if they jump a foot, then you've got to jump 2 feet to get on their level. That's just becoming impossible. And this isn't like running and jumping. This is like from a standing jump sort of thing. It's not really a sprint and a full-on leap like doing a dunk for Chicago Bulls or something. It's pretty much from a standing point. So that's a silly mismatch, and you've got to look and go, come on, we got caught out on the first one. Next, second, third, or fourth one, you've got to be at least getting a message out and saying, look, swap them round, have a bit of brains, do, just think about what you're doing here. You can't mark someone who's that much. That height disparity is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Duncan Neves I'd say, okay, I love Neves. I think Neves. I thought Neves was the wrong midfielder to go off, but he should be doing a little bit better. But at least their heights were at least somewhat similar. You've got some, okay, there's a bit of balance there. But Moutinho and bloody Burn, unless I'm wrong, I'm sure that it was mentioned on the commentary at some point.
It was Moutinho.
Yeah.
It was Moutinho,
That's absolutely ludicrous. It really is ludicrous having him.
And it makes you wonder about the coaching. I mean, surely we know we've been conceding from corners and we've suffered from them. I mean, you'd think, well, why do you do the same thing and expect it to work differently? It's like the short corners. At what point do you say this isn't working? I just this kind of thing, and I think most fans get frustrated by. And I've all my Wolves career, because we're all fantastic managers, obviously.
But absolutely.
It's like holding on for a 1-0.
We're just waiting for the call,
Yeah, it's like holding on for a 1-0. You think we just know what the outcome is. They're going to score, and then they're going to have the impetus and get the second one, which is what happened to Brighton against us here. Yeah. In fairness, when you get down to 10 men, you kind of your hand's been played to a degree. But when you got Podence, Vitinha, he's not. None of them are particularly tall. Gibbs White isn't particularly tall. Neves is, I think, 6 foot. Is he? Is around that. So he should be able to do more, as you point out. Yeah. Who's Cody?
But you've got. That's the thing. Kilman's marking. This isn't. I'm not blaming the players for this, because they're doing what they've been told and coached to do. And although Neves was a similar height, Dunk is good in the air. He's known for being good in the air. Why aren't we putting our best player in the air up against him and matching them up like that? I do find that strange. And even if we're going to go, okay, we're playing zonal. After the first one, they clearly were knowing that we play zonally, they were putting those strong ones in the air where they knew our zonal players. So even swapping Moutinho and Neves, they're just going to be covering some midfield zone, surely. Just swap them, even swapping them round, so that there's a bit of a close. So I know Moutinho against Dunk isn't going to be really much of a challenge either, but he's going to stand more chance against Dunk than he is against Burn, and Neves is going to do a better job potentially. But it shouldn't. It should have been someone like Kilman on Dunk or Kilman on Burn, and then Cody. Is Cody good in the air?
Well, he's better than Neves, in fairness.
Yeah. So there you go. I don't think Kilman on Burn, Neves, Cody on Dunk. After the first or second corner, you go, right, we've got to swap this round, because it just isn't working.
And that comes back to the point about complementing. So you had Gibbs White, Vitinha, and Neves. Neves is the tallest of those players. He wouldn't be described as a physical, mobile, box-to-box midfielder. So you kind of got nobody in that role. Otasawi, Dendonka, Saez would have been option. No, they changed the team dynamic. I fully accept that, but you're not complementing in the physical side of the game by having those 4 players on, and it's not one of those players' fault. It's just that it clearly, you've got to have the athleticism, the mobility, the ability in the air. At some point, you've got to have it in your team to vaguely match up against what you're facing. We are missing.
I don't think. Oh yeah, you made a massive difference there. But I'll be honest, we've taken out, like you say, we haven't got Roll in there, we haven't got Saez in there, we haven't got Bolly in there, we haven't got Dendonka in there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 strong in the play. Even William Jose in the air.
Yeah, he can do a job.
Defensive can do a job there. So there's 5 straight away that you're not up against a team who are known for their aerial prowess. It's like, I'm not sure you can play Neves, Vitinha, and Moutinho in the same side in midfield
No,
because
it isn't.
they're all too similar.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And as much as I think Dendonk has been playing awfully recently, he really, for me, would have been better alongside Neves. And Moutinho, yes, he's been a great player, but he should have stayed on the bench. He was. I don't think he should have gone straight back inside. I personally, my preference would have been, because I still think the best pairing in that sort of deeper line midfield is Saïs and Neves. I still think, for some reason, I think those two complement each other really well. They just seem to. I don't know
Have
why.
you seen that in the Prem, though? I don't know if you've really...
No, not really, no. Not much.
So,
it has happened, but not very often. And
that kind of pairing I'd agree with. I don't know if Saïs is the right player. And I for me, the thing that strikes me most is if we get Neto back to full fitness and Raul comes back to something like what he was before, the defence is the key area. There's nothing wrong with Fabio at all. The defence absolutely, and a driving, athletic, powerful midfielder to play alongside.
Well, I'm hoping Otasawi will be that player.
I am, but it's not fair to put that pressure on him.
Early. No, it's not. But early signs are that he will be that player. But
physically,
if we could find someone, let's say, for the age about 29, get in that, sort of 29, maybe 30 even, 30, 31, who've got one, maybe two, a bit like with Moutinho, 1, maybe 2 years still at their best, or just from the top level, and they're just starting to come down, who can fill in that role and give Otasawi that sort of see that player there. We've brought him in, learn from him. You'll be taking over from that, and you give him that message. Tell him you are being basically groomed. I don't like using that word. It's been ruined by things. But you're basically being groomed for that position. That will be your position if you continue on the right path. Because we want him there. Because you're young. We want you to learn a bit. You can learn from him. He's experienced. Look who it is. It's so and so. And they go, oh yeah, it's that guy. He's got a bit of reverence. Learn from him. You'll take his position into it. You'll be his basic. He's going to mentor you into that position, and then you'll eventually take over. That's what I'd love to see happen, because I do think there's just elements of Otasawi that the way he drives forward with the ball, he's going to be one hell of a player. I think. I really do.
Well, the thing that got me is when he was played, and he's been played out of position. He's obviously when he played that ridiculous false 9 role against Burnley. He was winning early on, nearly everything in the air against Burnley, renowned for being strong in the air. And I thought, my God, if only we had a player to support him. He was getting flick-ons. The famous miss at Chelsea, was it? Where, I mean, these are young players. My God, the fact that they're in the position. I agree 100% with what you're saying there, because it's about balance in a team. Yeah. And you want to develop. The only way we can break into the top 6, 8, whatever it is now we're aiming for, is not by trying to compete financially with top 6 clubs. Because here's a bit of news: we don't have the money with financial fair play. We just don't have the revenue generation. So, player A who's of that quality to be top 6, given a choice between Wolves and let's face it, they're pretty awful, Arsenal. He's going to go to Arsenal every day of the week. You're in fantasy land if you think you can attract players of that level to Wolves when there are top 6 clubs available. You're in utter fantasy land. So the strategy of going for youth and, as you say, sprinkling in the experienced player is the way to go. Moutinho is a great example of that. And in fairness to Moutinho, when they were down to 10 and he's playing in the final third, I thought he was brilliant, linking up play, looking for balls going forward. Because he didn't.
Later in the game, totally different.
Totally different player. Who else have we took? Cody, I think, had a good game. I mean, we know what Cody's limitations are. and I think he managed them really well this game. I think it was a very solid performance. Patricio, what could he do for the goal? Some good saves. I think he did really well. Kicking.
Well, he made that one. He made that one very good save off
Yeah.
off one of the corners. I mean, that was
Yeah.
a really top draw save again.
Yeah.
I mean, some might not think that, but I did. I thought that was a really good save. 'Cause that was
He
a proper
needs
stretch.
better distribution though, especially under pressure. You know, you want to know that if you pass the ball back to the keeper, it's not a hopeless hoof-up pitch to get rid. It's something which could turn into an attack, and he needs. It's about communication and players. If a player says, if you've got say Troy on, and Troy, one thing he doesn't do to me enough is run onto balls. Let's imagine a Troy that did. Troy says, "You put it 20 meters from any other player, I'll be there. You know, give me 30, put it 30 meters from me, 20 meters from any other player, I'll be there." If you train him to do, you know, some player who can do that, where he can just look up and go, right, it's square 1-5. Go, he puts the ball there, and Traore, Neto, somebody is just pressuring. Even if
I'll be honest, I thought Traore was running onto more stuff today.
More than he was
more than he has for a while.
But do you think that's an element that he's better off coming off the bench?
Possibly.
Or
I don't like doing that, to be honest. I think I don't know. Well, it's useful. Yeah, it depends it depends how many players we've got fit. That's the thing. If we've got like a whole team who can do that, and then you can bring him on at half time, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and then he spends half an hour absolutely terrifying people. And you've had someone in the first half who's good, maybe a more technical player, got people running around and run them down a bit. Then you bring Troyer on after you've run them down. That, which I think was a tactic at one point, but I don't think we can do it at the moment because we haven't got. I don't think we've got enough players to be able to. It's a dangerous game that you don't use someone with that ability.
Yeah, but maybe the other point I should have considered was when Traore is on, and this is no fault of his own. The strategy is pass the ball to Traore, and he'll do his magic. Whereas it should be, okay, what we want to do is what you've said, and what Traore can do, as he's demonstrated numerous times, is just play him as a player. Let him make the pass and move, and then decide when to go. Give him the option rather than every time the same thing.
We want you to do this every single time.
When he cuts in, when he gets to that sweet spot about on the edge of the 18-yard where he's got two players, and they bias covering the run to the line, and he cuts in. As soon as he's in the 18-yard area, you know they're going to be reluctant to challenge him. Yeah. And if he does that more, again, he'll get better at it. And he can shoot. He's proved that so many times. He can shoot.
He's definitely. And the thing is, as well, when he cuts in, I think he's not at full speed when he cuts in. When he goes to the ball, at full speed. So if he cuts in, he's got more chance of getting a better shot in because he's not absolutely at full stretch, sort of thing. I mean, his crossing gets criticised. But he's going absolutely. He's getting right. He's getting past people, and he's basically knocking a ball across because he's at full stretch. Some will be loose; they just will be. But I was watching other players today. I was watching other players got to the byline today, and there was just as hit and miss with their chances. But no one mentions them. I don't understand what I think. I think it's because he looks good doing that and beating the man. Everyone then thinks, well, you look good there, so I'm going to expect this perfect ball every single time. But he's usually only got one person to aim at.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. So and the other side is if you can see that one person's marked by two, you might be looking for a player to come in off the on the far post. There's no point playing a ball in which you know is going to be headed by the first defender. So you've got to do something. So sometimes I think he tries to loop it up to give the player a chance to work something out. But if you've only got one player, you hit the nail on the head. If there's only one player in the box, there's only one option. And what's he meant to do? Just not bother crossing. So, I might as well just try and kick it against the player's legs for a corner, which sometimes maybe he tries to do as well. And that's intelligent, to be fair, because if there's one player in the box and there's nobody attacking that penalty area on a late run, which is where you get most of your goals, because most people ball watch in that situation. Yeah. And it comes down to where's the athletic driving midfielder who's going to bust a gut to get in there. And I think they might be at a club as we've talked about, but as you said, we need to have that mindset that that's what we're going to do.
That's it. Well, I mean, him driving into the middle today gave him the option, instead of having to try and put across the ball, he was able to lay it off to someone just further back, just lay it off, which happened to be Silva, who then dinks it just back in for him to continue his run inside. It works perfectly. It gives him. It gives. The thing is, it's a bit fairer on Troy. Troy has normally got one option to go outside and try and put something across. It gives him the option to do something different. So if he's thinking, well, I'm not sure I'm going to get that past him this time, he's not having to stretch and go so far. What I'm basically saying is, if he looks and the defender is too deep for him, he's having to go absolutely hell for leather and at the last minute try and cross something, which is going to basically make it harder for him to cross the ball. If he's got more options where he can go, he's able to go inside and there's a player to lay it, just like, again, an attacking midfielder coming in to the edge of the sort of D, hanging around that space, he can lay it off back to then continue his run. That player has then got Traore as an option, Silva as an option, and potentially whoever on the left-hand side is who should be in the box as well. So suddenly we're going from Traore aiming at 1, maybe 2, you've got a midfielder coming in, being able to aim to 3. That's instantly a massive advantage over what we've got normally. So, but I don't know. But we won. We won. So I don't want it to sound like it's all bad, because it wasn't.
No, the bad things are the things that we know. We've talked about time and time again. I think the kids are Vitinha, I think, grew into the game more. I think, as we said, I thought he was tracking back and trying to get challenges in, but that's probably not the part of his game he's had to develop, and he will only get better at it. I see nothing problematic there whatsoever. It's down to game time experience, and there's got to come. We look better when we're attacking at pace, trying to move the ball quickly. We're so much better than trying to be formulaic down the wings, and having the players who can play through the middle a bit more are how we have to move forward. And
absolutely. There's a ceiling to playing just on the wings. You've got to have the variation of being able to go left, right, or down the middle. Because today, I mean, there was so many times when we were in our where we after they'd scored in the first half and towards the end of the first half, where we were just looking so very predictable. It was just hit it out wide and hope that someone does something from wide. And there was a maximum of 3 players in any attack, and they would be so spread so thinly against it. And then you just put a high cross into some defenders who know exactly I head these away all day. No problem, not a problem at all.
Yeah.
So it's given them the option. There's good players there who just need to be able to have the freedom to be able to choose.
Yeah.
Freedom of choice.
Yeah. And having 18, 19, 20-year-old players, 21-year-old players, and giving them game time next season, so long as we have the right mix of, as you said, experienced pros, a few options to shore it up if we need to, and go a bit more formulaic to grind out a few results, means that if they develop, young players develop, and if they develop next season, then I would accept this kind of position next season if these young players they were developing. What I won't really, I say I won't accept, of course I will accept it, but what I don't want to see is older, experienced players playing the same way, not going forward, because there's no way forward then. You're just doing the same thing with no hope of progression. Whereas with the younger players, they're going to get better. And it comes down to what you said, we've got to coach to be more offensive. And for me, the key for that is better defence. It's the absolute key for me.
Yeah, you can't get away from it. It is what shackles the rest of the team down, because you can't. They're too frightened. The mentality is never going to. The general defensive mentality isn't really ever going to change. However, there's even less chance of us playing more a bit further up the pitch if they don't have the belief that the defence can cope. If you put in some new defenders there who are like a bit pacier and able to get back quicker and a bit stronger in the air, then there isn't that reluctance to let the rest of the team go forward because they're going, well, that's all right. Our centre halves will deal with it. Whereas Neto, at the moment, they're like, well, they might deal with it. We better have someone just in case. There's always that sort of just in case scenario, or seems that someone's got to hang back.
You're talking. It was when Cody got the yellow card. He did exactly the right thing because he knows that the guy's through if he gets past him. And if you've got somebody with pace, then he's made the initial run. He's still got to touch the ball. That means anyone with pace will get within striking distance. Hopefully he'll turn him. And that should give you time to get your other players back.
Absolutely, it slows them up.
Yeah,
if he's away and gone,
it's that difference. And it's not because Cody is a bad player. He's demonstrated today very capable. But you need somebody who you can say will be there. The other side is, of course, if you've got a pacey player and they're absolutely busting a gut to get back, you very rarely will concede red cards because you'll just go, well, he was back. So you can hoof him off the pitch like Cody did to a degree. Because he's not the last player. No, you get things like what happened to Dunk is going to happen, where you get turned. It's a great bit of play, and you have to make the decision or concede a goal. That happens. You can't account for everything, but what you can account for is most of the times play breaks down and how you react to it. So I feel fairly positive, but my one concern is that we have to improve defence. We've just got to improve defence, and then I feel a lot better. I think the other one is where do we get the money for these top quality defenders? And I wouldn't really want to sell anybody. I
think it would. I don't think it would be beneficial whatsoever to sell anyone. Even one player at the moment. I know others would disagree, but I think that similar investment, cash-wise, that we spent this season or the season before, I think you could get two centre halves. I think they're available. I think they exist.
Yeah, they will exist. I mean, there's an element of risk with what the kind of price we'll be looking at, but if we don't get rid of players, we're not really taking a huge risk. I mean, you look at Rafa Mir. I think we paid 6 million for him. People are talking about bringing him back. Let's look at the most likely option. We sell him for 10. Well, I'm pretty certain over the 4 years, 3 years, whatever we've had him, his wages haven't been 4 million. Obviously. No. So it's we've had him on loan as well, so we know for certain that we haven't been paying those. So we're going to make a few million there. And there's, maybe the option is to bring him back if you're concerned about Raul. Bonatini, the strange one to sign him. Again, he's been out on loan a few times, so the cost, we'll probably have to subsidise his wages, but cost hasn't been great. We're not going to get anything for him. Catroni, we are going to lose on him because he's just not delivered.
That's a shame, because I actually thought, to be honest, when he came back just for that very brief period, I actually thought he was all right. I genuinely didn't understand why we didn't persist. Unless he did. Well, he didn't want to be here potentially, but he came back and he played.
But the thing is, he hasn't taken his chance in Italy when he's had it. So, there comes a point when, life deals you the hand of being in Wolverhampton, and really you got two options. You can sit and moan that your mama's not here, or you can get your head down and do the best you can and become obsessed with being the best player you are. That's character. I went to Northern Ireland at university, arrived there, north coast of Northern Ireland, 5 o'clock, nowhere to stay. And you got a choice to go, oh, life's terrible, I hate it, or you get stuck in. There's only two options in life. You get dealt whatever hand you get dealt, you got to make the best of it. And whinging about it very rarely helps. But yeah, it's just down to what you are, I guess. But apart from that, you will get things wrong with players at that age. But you also get players like Silva. I mean, I'd say 35 million. I've seen more from I've seen nothing that worries me about Silva at 35 million compared to.
Look at signing Neto. I mean, that was even less money. That's. And we got two players there as well for 20 million.
Yeah, and without that injury, who knows what Jordao would have done?
Because I thought, I'll be honest, when I saw the both of them play, I thought Jordao was the better player. Well,
I thought he had potential, definitely.
But he's definitely, it was a bit raw, but there was something about it. I was very surprised that we loaned him out. But you don't know. He may well come back next. So I don't know. I don't know how well he's doing at the moment, but I wouldn't give up on him. We signed Shabani, who's been massively unlucky. He got injured in that cup game, and then he's gone again. So he's stuffed. Obviously, Johnny will come back at some point, we hope. But again, it's the same one that went. It's the same bit. I think it's the same. Is it ACL? I can't remember. But I think it's the same injury. Yeah, I think it's the same injury again. That's a shit because he's an awesome player.
But John is a good example because when he came, who'd heard of him?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When Raul came, I remember Raul is a classic example as well. I remember you can go back. The comments were, "Oh, he's not worth 30 million." It's a player who hadn't had hardly any game time for whatever reason, and he's now considered, to be in that. I don't mean world class, but he's in that.
He's top striker. Oh yeah, absolutely. He's considered one of the better complete strikers. There's not many of them about anymore. You don't get those sort of players really anymore for some reason. I'm not sure why. Perhaps they're out of fashion or whatever, but you don't get that many. I mean, what the good thing is Silva is going to be that himself. He might not be quite as quick, but he's certainly got the.
He seems to be getting quicker.
But what I was saying, I said this the other week though. If they can get a sprint coach with him, he's only got to adjust his stride pattern when he first runs, and he's just adjust that, and he'll look quicker because you only need to be quicker off the first few meters. You don't need to be Olympic style sprinter in full pace. There's a lot of players in the team who you would say, oh, they've got no pace, pace, but they have got pace. They just haven't got that initial burst. Once they get up to speed, they're actually very fast. You can see that happening over when there's a long run where they're having to chase someone. If they weren't quick, they wouldn't catch them up. They do catch them up, but what they haven't got is that initial burst. And there's other players who you see with the initial burst, it's like absolute lightning, and then the players they'll get caught up. But what the danger part is that initial burst because that gets you free to do something. So if he can, it's just a case of closing up his stride, and he will be quicker off the mark. He might lose some straight line speed, but who cares? You don't really need that.
No, he's an intelligent player. That kind of instant change of position with his brain it just makes him so deadly.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're leaving defenders literally going, "Where are you?" I have no idea. And if you've got a player who's tuned into Silva through training, who knows that he likes to go left and right and receive the ball right or whatever, then you begin to have that what people say telepathic understanding. Well, really, they know from training that he likes to do that, or he might. You hear players occasionally having they'll signal to say where they're actually going to go to their teammate. But he's still there's nothing wrong with Silva at all. I'm positive.
He will be one of those rarity all-round strikers.
Yeah,
because he's got ability in all areas, and there's not that. I don't think there is that many. Because if you can see by bringing in Jose, he's got certain attributes of a striker that are all good strike, but not all round. You could play Jimenez in pretty much any team, and he'd perform pretty much the same in every team, I think. Whereas other strikers, you would like Jose, worked great in Spain in the style that he was playing, but when he's come here, it hasn't worked the same because it's not the same kind of game, so it doesn't fit the mold. And I don't think there's that many. Well, there isn't. There just isn't strikers like that anymore. That's why Jimenez looks so special, because you can see that all-round game. So, who did you have as your man of the match?
I think I'd have to be lazy and go for Traore, because we'd never looked like scoring without him. If I think there was a lot of the performances I was happy with, but I'm going to be lazy and just go Traore. I think he gets a lot of stick, and I think he deserves praise when he plays like that, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd agree. He changed the game. I know the sending off changes the game, but we've seen on many occasions when the team sits deep and we try to break them down, we get literally nowhere. And he did change it.
We broke them down by playing balls, intelligent balls in the box. That 1-2. Lucky break for Gibbs, but interesting point on Gibbs's miss. I'd like to watch it back. I got the impression that when Traore ran for it, Gibbs made a run and then stopped when he saw the ball bounce off the keeper. Then he ran when he saw Traore running on. I think that's why he missed. If he had accelerated and made what you'd call a wasted run, because the keeper gets the ball, if he makes that wasted run, he has literally he could get down on his hands and knees and head the ball in. And I think for me, I'd like to watch that back, because to me, that if you get, I'm not going to knock him for being under pressure. I take your point about putting the ball on target, but for me,
for me that was all. That's what annoyed me. It was just the if he'd come in, he'd kick that ball, and one of those defenders on the line. There's two of them. If one of them had blocked it, fine. I'm all right with that, because there's two. You've still got to put the ball. Yes, you'd be annoyed, but you'd go, well played to the defender for blocking it. Wildly smashing it over. But as I say, he the same happened again to him when it got blocked in the box, and then he had a second stab at it, and he then took that chance. So he made up for it that sense. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, I was good, and the reason I mention that is because I think on another day with a few challenges, him winning a few more duels, a few of the things he tries comes off. I think he's almost, and this sounds like damning the faint praise, but I think he's almost getting to the point where he's being quite influential in games. It's just not coming off for him. And I thought Ed Norrie was good as well today. I thought Fabio was good. So yeah, it's got to be Traore though. Is a standout player.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'd go Traore. He changed the game. Totally changed the game. Closely run for me by Norrie, because in the dark time of the first half, after the first 15 minutes, I felt that he was the only player who looked positive and tried to get somewhere, and was to be fair to him, he was actually doing quite well. But yeah, he comes in a close second for me.
Yeah. Who have we got next?
Next game is Tottenham away.
Oh, I do fancy that. I have to be honest.
They don't have a manager at the moment, do they? As such.
Well, they haven't got Mourinho, which might help them. Hopefully, they'll be a bit more expansive, and it's one of those games where everything we've said, you just want to make sure that we are strong defensively and can break. It's a kind of game where it kind of goes against everything we've said in a way. But I do think,
I'd still play. I'd still play the young players personally, and just tell them to go out and enjoy yourself.
If we lose,
we've got to stay. Enjoy it.
If we lose 4-0, lose 4-0. We've lost 4-0 before. Just don't make it 5. But try and express yourself. You're up against Tottenham Super League. Go and show what you can do. Give it a go. I would like to see a bit more height and power in the team. Do we know what's wrong with Otto Sarri today? Is he just dropped, or ill or what?
Apparently, some form of knock. I saw someone had posted.
Okay. Hopefully it'll be okay. I'd like to see Otasowie in this topic.
I personally, I posted up a team that I would like to have seen for today, and I would probably still go with that team, and that's with Smedo, Quaver, Kilburn, and Aït-Nouri as the back four.
That's a big shout. Yeah, go on.
I know.
Let's see. Okay,
I know.
Go
and then 2 in front of them, Neves, Otasowie.
Yeah.
3 in front of them. Make sure I don't put too many players in here. Yeah, 3 in front of them of being Podence, Vitinha, Traore, and then Silva up front. That's my preference, personally.
I would like to see that to a degree. I would like to make the point that it's not a slur on Cody, because you could play Cody with Neves instead of Neves potentially for pinging around. If you could do that, but I'd agree with you. Neves would be the better option, because I think he needs to be a bit unshackled from Cody and a bit unshackled from Vitinha. I'd like to see that.
That's it. I think they both would move further up the pitch.
Yeah. Well,
Neves would feel that he could, because he would have that player next to him as well,
I'll be
who
perfectly
could also
honest.
get back.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly honest. I'd be happy if Neves pivots a bit, is the pivot, and Hoovia and Kilman are the ones who try and draw out press, and then you play back to Neves for a quick ball over the top as they try and press. But I'm not a footballing genius, so. But I wouldn't mind seeing that. If we lose against Tottenham 4-0, I'm not. As long as we try and learn something.
Only for one reason is I'd like to see whoever play in that position as the centre half. I know that Bolly probably be available for that game, but give him another week. I'd like to just see what that team did. I really would, because I'd be interested, because they'd be tested. They'd be definitely tested with Kane and Bale and people like that, and Son. Maybe no. The more I say this, the maybe this isn't such a good idea.
Well, look, at the end of the day,
I actually genuinely though, I do think it's a good idea, because if they really can't handle it and do atrociously bad, and it's like a cricket score, then you know that then they're not. Are they ever going? Would it be bad? It's like what you were saying earlier. Would it be bad for them to do that, or would it be good for them? I don't know.
There's also the option that you maybe go to a 5, but you try and be very expansive in front of that 5. So you rely, you kind of say, yeah, we will play a 5, but we really are expecting the wing backs to push, and we're not going to play 2 defensive-minded midfielders in front of them.
Yeah, you could play like a. You could still play 4, but like you say, the 5. 4, but with a 1 in front of them, and then 2 further forward midfielders. So that 1 is essentially, it could be Cody or Neves. It wouldn't matter. I don't know. Cody wasn't great in midfield in the Championship, in my opinion. But I don't know.
I think it's unfair to. I mean, it comes down. I mean, if you play a 3, then Cody's a shoo-in. So
I mean, the thing is, I'd like to see whoever there, but I want to see how he performs as a 2 centre halves. But then what you also want is because you've got Kilman whoever there. The problem is you haven't got any experience telling them which is what Cody would be good. But maybe that's you've got. But then you have got Smedo.
Smedo, I don't think is a leader. I don't.
It's a shame. I'll tell you what is a shame. Marcal, if he was fit, he could have played as the left. He could have played as the left back, and he is. Although injury prone, you can see he's got a good brain. He really has got a good brain when he plays.
Yeah,
he's a bit more vocal.
In fact, I mean, we signed him, didn't we, for 5 million, I think. And if he gets fit, you kind of feel that as cover for Aït-Nouri, as it is now, if he was fit, and maybe coming on to take some strain off it, nor if it's a game he's getting turned inside out. Do you think Markal would definitely do the job? I'm quite impressed with him, I have to be honest. It's a shame he's just injury prone. Some players
are. That's what you get, though, for that price. Somewhat he's got a history of injury. You take a risk and hope that he's over him. Which he wasn't.
Yeah, well, he's got. I don't think he'll be playing for Brazil, will he? So hopefully he can get good rest and just think, I'll have a last season in the Prem or two and just look after myself. And then, but you don't know what his physical situation is. There's obviously something there. And but yeah, I agree with you. He's definitely got football in brain, which I always like to see, because that's hard to learn. And he's got a bit of an edge as well, Markal.
Yeah,
you wouldn't like to play against him, would you?
Not at all.
Which is always
so score wise.
Well, if we play your team, we'll lose 4-0 easily. But
no, never.
I'm going to say Nuno will be a bit more cautious. We will scrape a. Let's go for a 3-2. Let's say we'll scrape a 3-2. Full meltdown at White Hart Lane for Tottenham. It's got a nice sound of it, hasn't it?
Well, I think what will happen is Nuno will get on the phone after seeing this video and go, "What are your thoughts, Dave?" And I'll be like, "Well, as you've heard my team, you see, I'm thinking this and I'm thinking that," and then they go, "That's not a bad idea. That, no, I might use that. You don't mind if I use that?" I'll go, "No problem. You use that. You've done well up to now."
You are that attacking coach.
It takes a big man to admit that you need some help from someone. But yeah, if we were playing like the team I suggested, I actually do think that it would catch them out because they wouldn't be expecting it for one.
They certainly wouldn't be expecting it. I think we could agree on that. Yeah.
And I would think they could. I think they could win 3-1.
Okay, so I'm going
I think they'd make a mistake. I think they would make a mistake early on.
Wolves, you mean?
Yeah, that's standard. But
I think
that's
why I wondered why you were mentioning that, to be honest.
I think that, I do. I think that team would do pretty well. My only defence forwards would do pretty well. I think my back line might struggle. I don't know, because I don't know how well Nueva would play as a centre half.
But if he just salts all the time, he's not going to do too well.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Maybe he wouldn't play, and it would be Bolly in there. But I don't know. No, I just like to see it because I think it would be interesting to put that team out just for a proper test, because that is potentially a future team there in a couple of years.
Age-wise, I mean, is he 19 yet?
I'm not sure. Well,
he's 18 or 19.
I have to do a quick Google.
He's ridiculously young, and I kind of feel that. I think with like I said, playing out wide, you've got only half the game, so to speak.
He's 19.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think as a centre back, he's got potential, but it might be a case of you run down the wing if you think that's what you want to do for a year or two, but you're going to grow, you're going to develop physically. Let's see where you are at 21, and you'll have some bit more experience. You may feel that with your physicality and your experience, that you may feel that you've got more to offer centrally. I know what you mean, though. I have thought the same myself, but I would rather. I'd probably stick with him wide, but he's an option, definitely an option. Mm. I'd probably go 3-5 or 3-5-2 or some variation of that.
I just hope they don't do that, because I know why you. I want to see them. I want to see them now. Just go like, we're going to stick with this 4 now. We're not going down.
Well, I tell you,
Let's progress and use this time to get, start. It's almost like the pre-season starts now.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I do feel one thing I'd like to see, and is definitely start out with three at the back, but I would like to see transitioning more. So, okay, or you start with a four, and if it's not working,
Yeah.
you transition to a three. I want to see more tactical flexibility in the game to counter what the other team's doing early on, rather than just beating your head against the wall, going, "It will work eventually." But as long as we don't lose by more than four, I can't, and we put in the effort and try. I can't see a way I'm going to be too disappointed. I know, when the first two goals go in, it's going to be reaching for the next can of beer. But I genuinely feel, I just like you. I think you're saying the same thing. You want to see a progression tactically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would definitely agree with that. I'm not overly worried about the result. I don't care particularly about Tottenham. I don't particularly care about Man U last game of the season. Is it who we got after Tottenham then? Is this? We only got two left.
Quickly check. There's not many.
Everton. It's Everton.
Everton and then Man U. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
those are three games I'd like to see us experiment in, because if we aspire to be, and especially with Man U, they're playing for something. Tottenham are playing for something. I think Everton are, realistically. I'd like to see us experimenting, not flowing in the gloves, maybe with Luke, but I'd like to see us experiment and be tactically more flexible and try and surprise teams. We're so much better when we're going forward with intent than trying to just slowly crab-like and play the ball backwards and side.
It is so very strange that we've got so many good attacking options and attacking players that we play defensively.
I know, it just doesn't make sense.
It's like that. It does seem very strange. And we've recruited those players as well. We've looked to actively get those players in. It's not like we've just happened. The manager's come in and they already had a glut of great attacking players. They've all been recruited. So why are we doing that?
Yeah, you do wonder what would. Yeah, I mean this game, to be honest, apart from the defensive frailties of why we conceded, but I didn't think Brighton looked hugely threatening apart from that.
No, just they were just dangerous on set pieces.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So if you look at that and you address that, then that should be an easy win. That type of game should be an easy win. And you can say the same about quite a few games this season. That I've felt that it's been individual mistakes or glaring glaring deficiencies in the team which have resulted in losses and bad performances. Whereas if we can develop the attacking intent and get better quality defenders, or some of our defenders grow to be better, I think it's positive. How positive would depend on the additions.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. Did you get yourself a ticket? Were you in the pool?
I'm in group 3. I don't know when that.
Same as me then.
So when can we go and buy?
I don't know. I'll be honest. In being in group 3, I'm kind of thinking that's no ticket. I really don't think that's good.
I'm not. I mean, to be brutally honest, I'm not. Like I said before, I don't want to go to a half-assed experience. I want to go back to the proper thing. No masks, no social distancing, cheering, singing. And I kind of feel I'm not interested in that. I'm just, with VAR and everything else, it's at the point where I'm just, I won't be disappointed if I don't go, put it that way, for 8,000 socially distanced. It's not football. It's just not football. But I would probably go out of loyalty, and I know my kids would want to go, but I secretly, deep down, will go. Not too bothered, to be brutally honest.
I'll be honest. I like just being able to see all angles of the pitch. That's what I miss.
Yes.
It's that side. I really miss not being able to. I'm not much of a singer, so singing for people who like singing. I've got no problem with people doing it, but I'm not much of a singer myself. So, but what I do love seeing is the whole of the pitch and being able to watch what the cameras don't show. And seeing how, because you can see all the build up and of what other players are doing, and it's just
the off the ball stuff.
all the off ball runs and stuff like that, all that sort of stuff going on, and I do miss that because it paints a completely different picture. I've said this many a time to people who aren't really into football, and they watch it on the football. Oh, it's boring on the telly. I don't really like it, and I'm like, go to a game. It's totally different. It's completely different. Even if you're not into football, it's different. And like you say, with the singing and the atmosphere of that side. But if you're just interested in watching if you're not so bothered about that side, I fully admit that. I like seeing the whole of the game properly, and it totally changes the experience completely. And an atmosphere does make a difference. It pumps you up. You get the highs and lows are much more, and you don't feel a Burke shouting at the television.
Where do you sit then? Usually,
me in the bit. Well, naturally, I don't sing, so I sit in the billy quiet. It's my natural home. Where else would I go?
I'm a J9 Steve Bullocker.
Oh yeah.
We seem
well,
to.
Let me see. That's the thing. I again, there's this people watching this go. Oh, not a proper fan. Don't like sitting behind the goal. I don't like sitting behind the goal. I really don't. I like to be so I can see right in the middle, see everything. That's why.
I like to be on the back row so I can stand up with it because my knees go. You know those seats, they're so cramped. I have to stand up, and you think, oh God, bring in safe standing because my knees they kill me. Whereas my son wants to sit down all the time because his knees kill if he stands up. So you think, we can't win. But it is. I do miss it. But I miss the whole thing. Like I said, for me, the singing is important. The crowd's important.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It would be awful if no one sang. It really would. I wouldn't enjoy that either. I'm just not into the singing. It's just not it's just not me. But that doesn't mean I'll shout and scream, but I just don't sing.
To finish up on, because I think this is one of the funniest things I've heard. There was a commentary when I think it was Danny Mills said. It's another short corner, and the commentator said, "Yeah, I think even the fake fan noise." In fairness, I thought that was a superb bit of commentary there.
It was a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that, we'll leave it there then, and we will be back after the Tottenham game. I believe what's the date? Yeah, that's next Sunday. It's a slightly later game. Whether I'm here, I don't know. I might get the invisible man to just sit and be invisible and let everyone else talk because I play football myself on Sunday.
We'll stream that.
I'll try. It depends. It all depends on timings, but hopefully we'll someone will be here if I'm not. And until then, thank you very much, Rich. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye bye.